News headlines at 6:30. Grace Mugabe is still in South Africa. Police ministry says she has invoked her diplomatic immunity. Zimbabwe's First Lady is accused of assaulting a Johannesburg model. It's the ANC versus the ANC in KwaZulu-Natal, challenging the outcomes of the 2015 Provincial Executive Committee. Some branches say proper processes were not followed in the elective conference, and they want the results to be nullified. Thousands gather in Marikana to mark the 5th anniversary of the massacre. 5 years later, the families paid tribute to the 34 mine victims. AMCO calls for empowerment of black people. Good evening and welcome to Africa News Network First Fast Live. My name is Cindy Mabi. 5 years after the tragic events that unfolded in Marikana, the victims say there's no meaningful compensation for their pain. This is trade union AMCO hosts a commemoration event of the Marikana massacre. Many decry the lack of prosecution or jail time for those responsible for killing 34 mine workers. Community members are dissatisfied with poor living conditions in Marikana. They say nothing has changed since the massacre. Meanwhile, Mining House Lonman says that they will open a commemoration park in memory of the slain miners. The company has also revealed plans to upgrade hostels at Marikana.
Those workers who assembled at this copy 5 years ago were the real pioneers of the quest for radical economic emancipation. As we seek to define it today, they sought to challenge the apartheid slave wage system that has characterized our labor market for a long time. In a profit-led economy model, this wage system is an anchor for monopoly capital and the root of the exploitation of workers. Why should black be empowered in their country of origin? The foreigners must be empowered by us, not us be empowered by foreign multinational.
There is nothing different between June 16 and Sharpeville Day and Marikana Day. Workers, working class was killed by the government. Therefore, we must remember this day all over South Africa so that government does not repeat a similar mistake.
This is something South Africa should never forget. What happened here 5 years ago deserves justice, and until justice is upon our people,
we will not forgive. We won't move backwards. We still want the money.
Our union, AMCO, is doing their best since 2012. The company does not want to do anything up to so far. It's only the union, the trade union, which is AMCO, that is trying to do something in their best to build the houses for those widows, and we as the workers, we are trying, but our hearts are sore.
Nothing has changed, but we are not good with this thing because nobody's arrested. The one who commanded the people to shoot the people, justice must be done. Justice must be done. That is the only thing we are not fight about it.
I would like to thank our president, Mr. Matunja, for the job well done for the loanmin employees, because his arrival meant a lot to our grievances.
Kuthe kwakufika ipresident Mr. Matunja kwaba khona utshintsho kwizinto ebesizikhalela singabasebenzi.
Nothing has really changed, and you heard that from the voices that came one after another by leaders taking the charge by AMCO President Joseph Matunjwa, the opposition leaders from DA, EFF, UDM, and also other international guests are saying the same thing, that nothing has really changed in Marikana since that fateful day of August 16, 2012. You heard one common voice as saying, if August 16 is not considered a public holiday, nobody is going to take this day seriously. And they put out their frustrations at the government, at the leading party, ANC, saying that the government has failed the people of South Africa.
And that's ANN7 reporter Keldan Ogmo. She's been there throughout the day in commemoration of the 5th anniversary of the Marikana massacre. And joining us is Blessings Ramoba, mining activist and also founder and president of the Mining Forum of South Africa. And Zondo is with the litigation, or rather the litigation chief. Professor Berry Hanyan is a political analyst with the University of the Northwest. Lakiteki Shaw is a human rights lawyer and also deputy president of Transform RSA. Good evening to all our guests, and good evening to you, Reteki Shaw. Just what we've heard from many decrying the fact that very little has changed, let alone living conditions. Truly an indictment of the entire process from August 16, 2012 to the day. It can't be that nothing much has been done.
No, that's true. I think we must be honest. But before that, I think our sympathy goes to the affected families and the Marikana communities. I subscribed to this principle that says justice delayed is justice denied. I think in this instance, that sounds true. And I'll tell you why. I think 5 years from now on, when we go back there, you would find a number of small things that have been done by lawmen and government. But in the main, the findings were very clear to say what must happen with a number of issues that have been recommended. Now, one would say without any fear that I think a number of things has not been done, a number of things still have to be done, and partly lawmen, together with our government, has done a little in relation to that thing. But what is important for me is that there is this compensation issue that is very, very serious for the lives of the Marikana people, especially the affected ones. Now, the state has already considered liability, meaning that they have agreed that at some point they were at fault in terms of the project itself. Now, when we have considered liability, what is left now is for you to be able to speak quantum. Quantum means you will have to now agree on the how much part thereof. And I think it's really unacceptable for both the lawyers of these guys as well as government to take so long for them to resolve the issues of quantum. By now, one would have assumed that people should at least have had some compensation in order for their life to be bettered, but it appears that that's not the case. And I think in that regard, one would say that government, both government and the lawyers and the lawyers of these affected people might take some blame in relation to that matter, because there are so many things that they could have done in relation to resolving that matter. I'm saying one is mediation. If they can't resolve themselves, let them get somebody in to mediate and be able to resolve the issue. Because what is critical is for the people to be able to can live, to get that compensation. To find a semblance
of closure. But as you're saying, justice must still prevail, especially in a constitutional democracy that we live in, that even notwithstanding the Farlam Commission's recommendation that says police were well equipped to contain the situation, but the plan failed and then subsequently opened fire. We know that the sole police representative, Riapiacha, was the only one essentially who fell on her sword. So who else must take accountability for this?
No, a number of other people have also been mentioned in the recommendations, and some of them are really the police who shot at these miners. I'm saying the report is very clear to say the NPA must continue with the investigation to ensure that those that are responsible must be held accountable. And it's not difficult for you to can find those guys. All what they need to do is to speed up the process of ensuring that people that are accountable must be found and be able to then held accountable and see how far you take this matter.
Professor Barry Hanyane is a professor with the University of the Northwest and a political analyst. Good evening to you, and thanks for joining us. It's really a very painful, again, open wounds for the survivors and the bereaved families of the mining victims of Marikana. Can this country shake off this monumental disgrace, and including the way it's been handled in the past 5 years?
Good evening, and good evening to your panelists there, as well as your viewers at home. Look, I think indeed you're quite right. Some emotional wounds here have been opened by celebrating this, and I'm not suggesting that this should not be celebrated at all. I watched this in the greater part of the day today, following it through the television at home. And yes, I was caught up by a number of issues, and I think earlier on, one of your guest studios has eloquently put the entire picture at ease for everyone else to understand what is going on here. One would also pick a number of issues. One, the fact that our unions are indeed on somewhat of a militaristic path, we call it radical, in the way issues are resolved in this country, especially labor issues. And this character is not likely to go away very soon. And I think government as a regulator must actually step up its gear to make sure that nothing of this nature comes to haunt us once again. The other issue that caught up my attention was the greater need than ever before to regulate the area of social corporate responsibility. I would have loved to hear loanmen coming up to say, look, we understand we are party to the whole experience, and thus far we have tried our level best to meet the victims, the survivors to the victims, and all other parties in sundry to make sure that indeed there's some manner of parity. We cannot expect loanmen to bring back the victims, as it were, but surely their role is at stake as well. The issue of social justice is quite crucial, and I'm hoping that government, from the side of persecutions, will make sure that perpetrators, some measure of accountability, will be realized in due course.
Professor Hanyane, stay on the line, please. We have Anonymous on the line from Hammanskraal, and Elvis, we come to you next. Good evening, Anonymous.
Ke teng mane o tla ntshwarela ke bolele sekgowa ke itse sekgowa mara o itse story se sa Marikana se ne ke se morao mo se thomile mo teng o itse rona Basotho especially mo South Africa re ne le bothata bo bogolo o ke santse go pula ENCA ba ntsha photo picture e nngwe e reng ke phone ke batho bana ba di mine ba thubutse mme o mongwe diaparo before ba tlo thuntsiwa ke maponisi le ya problem ya ka mo always go utlwa le bolela ka 34 minus e tlhokofetseng. What about maponisa nela a bolawa le batho ba le ponisa le khautsi di private party mo ko Marikana? Why ba le sa bolele ka bona always 34 minus and sa bobedi kana batho bana ha ba thuntsiwa le nna ke buetse maponisi ne ba le ko positioning ya bona wa plore ba kintse reservoir mon batho ba ne ba ile ba jumpela ko seponisi a le ba tla nthora maponisi le ba tshwentse ba tshabela. All
right, Anonymous, Rutlile Papa, Retautra Retekisho Horiana, Anna, Onahana Yang or Maponisa, party responsibility abona, and then why we're only commemorating the mining victims as opposed to the policemen that also died in the process. That's Anonymous in Hammanskraal. Elvis, good evening to you and thanks for calling.
Good evening, Cindy. How are you?
I'm fine.
And your panelist.
Yes, sir.
Cindy, this is something that is going to dent our government forever. Looking at the consideration that I was part of the people that once worked at Marikana, and what is going on there, especially by the shareholders to the workers, is uncalled for. There are issues that when a current government should have attended at that time, but they ignore it up until it gets to this point. I was one of those people. Now, what is important is I would like to make a plea to the political parties not to make it a political grounds, because it's not going to take anything to assist the widowers there. Lastly, Cindy and your panelists, I would like us, as South African people and the government, come into board and assist those widowers as well as the kids that have their father died on the field, so that we can get a moving slate and forget about what happened, because it's going to haunt us forever, Cindy. Yeah. That is my comment.
Jarvis calling us from Naturena, saying that, it's a collective approach that we can assist, be it civic organizations, etc. But I want to go back to Re Anonymous, for one, there was provocation on the part of the miners. It's difficult now to apportion blame, because there has been a process with the Farlam Commission, etc., that found fault within the police, and further inquiry in terms of the fitness of then Commissioner of Police, Ria Biecha. We know her demise or her fate. But why is it that we are selective? It's only the miners. That was the question that we're commemorating.
No, thank you very much. I think the reason why it's only the miners is because AMCO was leading in terms of ensuring that there is this commemoration. And it was AMCO's members that were massacred. I'm saying, I'm not underplaying the 10 that were killed earlier on. But I'm saying, in the main, AMCO was leading this process, and I thought that AMCO might have seen it fit that it must focus on its members. But it doesn't mean that AMCO, together with all the relevant parties, cannot meet and arrange such that all that were affected or all that died can be able to be commemorated at the same time. I'm saying there's something that is possible that can happen, but currently the situation is AMCO was leading, AMCO is still leading, and these were AMCO members.
Yeah. Professor Hanyani, just in terms of the mediation, we saw Deputy President Cyril Ramaphosa being denied access to Marikana when there was still a murmuring that he may visit the area. But nonetheless, it's a very sensitive and delicate approach that government would have to take, considering the time lapse of any form of meaningful intervention.
Yeah, absolutely. Unfortunately, the name Mr. Ramaphosa comes in strongly. My analysis, it shouldn't be the case. In fact, we should see a greater role by government broadly, and not the name of a deputy president being put forth. Because then what that does is that it excludes him outside of government, and that is a wrong perception. And the whole notion that he bears the brunt of the unfortunate experience, I think to some degree has been overstretched. And yes, he may have made a call that something should be done that we can take away from the history books. But equally important, government should lead in terms of giving face, making sure that some measure of retribution to that extent is indeed followed up in the instance.
And your view, Retikish?
I would respect and agree with Prof in relation to the role that has been played by the current Deputy President, Cyril Ramaphosa, because that word, that infamous sentence of concomitant action is very critical. And it is alleged that it might largely have played a role in terms of the action. It's alleged. And I'm saying a number of people is very clear. Now, there is no way that you can undermine the role or the supposed role that have been played by the Deputy President. What I do think must happen, because the Deputy President is a Deputy President of the South African government, and he's also responsible for government business, meaning that he has massive influence in how government must operate. Now, here he's faced with so many things. Currently, most of those guys are staying in shacks. There is no electricity, there is no water. For him to at least show some courtesy, to say, yes, I think I need to do something more because of what has happened. He could have really done something to say, let him speed up government in the province, government nationally and see whether he can be able to also, because he's a billionaire, we must not run away from the fact that he's a billionaire, and contribute a lot of money to assist government to build houses, to bring water, electricity, and all of that.
I'm not sure of his credentials in terms of giving back, but, I can imagine that there must have been a gesture in good faith.
Yes.
From the deputy president. But again, he's not the only one that is necessarily accountable or liable in this matter.
But that's why I'm saying he must be able to have that. He must be able to deal with government, but he must contribute as well.
All right, let's take a caller.
He must also push lawmen to be able to play
a
more important role in terms of ensuring that the lives of people are changed there in Marikana.
All right, we take a caller from Cape Town, Tando Misa. Thanks so much. Good evening to you.
Ma'am, good evening, ma'am, to you and your guests. Ma'am, point number one. The Marikana issue, the people that now are hijacking this, your political parties, EFF and your DA whatsoever, they are making it difficult for government to interfere to help the people of Marikana. Those people now, they make these things so politically. Look what is happening now to Ramaphosa. They do not want to see Ramaphosa in Marikana, of which Ramaphosa, he is a human being. And for that matter, how many people who are now walking up and down, of which they've done a huge damage to us. But a simple to say, we apologize whatsoever. This is me. I'm here in front of you. I apologize for what happened in 2013 whatsoever. People, they are denying that to Ramaphosa. Ramaphosa can do a good thing for the people of Marikana. But now these political parties, now they're taking these things they're just taking this thing, they're dragging this thing unnecessary. Those people, they don't have husband.
All right, thank you so much, Tando Moses Siabula Lenkosi, calling us from Cape Town. Blessings Ramoba, mining activist and founder and president of the Mining Forum of South Africa. Ramoba, thanks so much for joining us. Just a caller saying that this whole situation is convoluted because of the political expediency and it makes it difficult for government to intervene or mediate. What's your view?
Yes, thank you for inviting me for the interview. First of all, I will say that in terms of the issue of loan mill, with the issues of the living conditions of the workers, the community, the sufferings of the communities and the employees, it has been very long overdue. And the culprit here that should be looked at is loan mill. Since from 2006, in terms of their social and labor plan, they have never implemented anything. Their promises were just falling apart. They never implemented anything. And now, one thing for sure, when they say that Mr. Ramaphosa, for an example, you can do good thing in loan mill, it's a lie. Because Mr. Ramaphosa was a board member at Loan Mill and looking under the Department of Transformation. So he has failed to transform the Marikana communities and the lives of the employees in terms of their living conditions, the poverty that is there and visible on the ground. People do not have sanitation, they do not have a proper place to stay. So it's just a mess. And now when you look at this Marikana commemoration, it's now becoming political because now this is the fifth one and there's never been any solution. So they come in, year out, just for rhetoric talks without any solution. So that must come to an end. If they are parliamentarians, most of them who goes there, and they are in decision making as part of the government. So they should stop blaming other people and pointing fingers and starting acting themselves in making sure that justice is brought to the people of Marikana and the communities and the employees. Because if you look at Loan Mill again here, this is the main culprit because We think as the Mining Forum that the DMR must harden in terms of enforcement and regulation, regulating this loan mill, because now there's nothing. Right now they're operating in their social and labor plans that from 2014 until 2018. If we look at what they've done in terms of the implementation, there's nothing. And those social and labor plan document is falling in next year, 2018, meaning that they need to submit another social and labor plan. As the Mining Forum of South Africa, we've had meetings, 5 meetings with the CEO of Loan Mill and the executives of Loan Mill. Initially, what we have done, we have done a study on the ground in terms of the findings of what is on the ground. And they have admitted that, you know, we are wrong. We're supposed to implement and everything. The social and labor plans requires a company to have what we call a forum, SLP forum that looks after implementation of this social and labor plan. Loan Mill doesn't have that. They commit in terms of the document of the social and labor plan when they submit it to DMR because they want the rights by then. But immediately they get the rights and the authority
they quickly
to
forget,
start mining,
they
forget that.
The obligations.
So
Blessings, we're going to have to leave it there. I really appreciate your time. Blessings Ramoba is a mining activist and founder and president of the Mining Forum of South Africa. And we had on the line Professor Beri Hanyane, political analyst with the University of the Northwest. Lucky Tekisho is a human rights lawyer and the deputy president of Transform RSA. And thanks to you, our callers. We hope that this narrative will change come the 6th anniversary of this tragedy. We're back after this.